And welcome to Training Camp Live. Anish, Shroff, Thomas Davis giving you a bird's eye view and an inside look at Panthers training camp. TD, we get a look at Chuba Hubbard getting loose before the start of practice today. This is a big season for the Panthers, coming off 8-9, we know, but first place in the division, first playoff berth since 2017, first division title since 2015. The theme all offseason has been, okay, now build off the momentum.
Yes, sir. All of these things that you talked about have been momentum builders for this football team and confidence boosts for these players. It gave them an opportunity to see what they were capable of. And then we go out, we make a bunch of acquisitions, bring in guys that can definitely help improve this roster. And you just saw one there warming up in Devin Lloyd. Man, this team by far is the best roster that we've had in a long time.
There's a lot of depth and there's a lot of excitement for a lot of players. You saw Jonathan Brooks a moment ago. He's coming off the 2 ACLs. The early reports out of camp have been good, and you know a little something about coming off multiple ACL surgeries.
Unfortunately, I do. But, you know, it's just one of those things, man, where you can build your confidence back up and you can build it up fast. And being out of the game gives you an opportunity to learn a lot about yourself and to learn a lot about the game.
Yeah, Panthers getting stretched out. We'll take you through the start of practice. I think it goes without saying, listen, this is a big season for Bryce Young. It's his 4th year, 3rd year in the system. He had his 5th year option picked up in the offseason. If he takes that next incremental leap, well, the Panthers are going to be right in the thick of things again. If he takes that massive leap, it's going to be great for the franchise. Certainly it's going to be great for Bryce Young and his financials going forward.
Absolutely. He's going to put himself exactly where he wants to be, man. Bryce, to me, has gotten better every single year. You know, over the first couple of years, there was a lot of change within the organization from a coaching standpoint, but now he's had the opportunity to have more continuity over the last couple of years. And now with that, we're going to continue to see an ascension of Bryce Young and watch him grow more and more as the roster continues to improve around him. That lens for him having a better year and his career just continuing to get better.
And TD, what we saw going back to OTAs, you're watching a guy who's more comfortable now, more vocal,
yep.
Right? The leadership role, he's embracing that more. You know, there was maybe a side of him where he was a people pleaser early in his career,
sure.
and maybe that's still there, but we're starting to see, as Dan Morgan likes to say, that dog in him come out a little more.
He's starting to be a lot more assertive, and I think with that, he's taking command of this football team.
Yeah.
It's something that you want out of your quarterback. I think kind of early on he was kind of thrust into the captain role, but now the difference is he's earned the captain role because he's going out and he's really being more vocal, like you talked about. He's not accepting certain things in practice that he was accepting and allowing to happen as the leader of the football team. So now, as Bryce Young continues to develop and he continues to get better, not only can he focus in on being a better football player, but he's doing a much better job of being a much better leader.
You know, you go back to last year, he had 6 game-winning drives. The only Panthers quarterbacks with more game-winning drives are Jake Delhomme and Cam Newton. He's in rare company when it comes to his 4th quarter magic. How do we get that version, the version we see when they play the Falcons, how do we get that for the course of a season for 17 games in 60 minutes?
You know what I want to see? And I've been saying this for a long time. If you look at those situations, like the comeback situations, the game-winning drives, all of those happen in hurry-up situations. Mm-hmm. And to me, Bryce Young operates a lot better in those moments. So as an offensive coordinator, my thought process would be create those moments throughout the course of the game and pick up the tempo and force the defense to have to react to what we're doing. If I know that my young quarterback operates at a high level when we have up-tempo and we're moving that fast, I'm going to create those opportunities more often for him to see if that's a part of the process and it takes the thinking out of it for him.
That's going to be fascinating because teams often play it close to the vest in terms of play calling and game planning in the preseason, but Dave Canales called the plays the last 2 years. He turns that over to Brad Idzik now. I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch. Yes, in preseason, more so early in the regular season. What are the wrinkles that Idzik brings to this offense?
You know, I think it just creates a new dissension for this team. It gives other teams something else to have to worry about when they get ready to face the Panthers, because, you know, you can get dialed in on what certain coordinators do coming into a season, and you practice it throughout the offseason and you know what to expect. But now there are going to be a lot of new wrinkles. We're going to do some of the same stuff that Coach Canales ran, obviously, but there are going to be some wrinkles that are going to improve this offense and make them better. And for a head coach to make that decision to release those titles, those duties as a play caller, when that has been his MO for a long time, that just shows you his confidence in his coordinators and his ability to just step back and lead the team in other areas.
There's Brad Idzik with the blue long sleeves and the white hat on the walkie-talkie. He's the play caller. He had the title of offensive coordinator the last couple of seasons, but now he takes over play calling duties. What does that now allow Dave Canales to do, not having to be the play caller in game every week?
You know, it just allows him to focus in on the whole team. Like, he get to focus in more on the defense and what's going on that side, focusing in on the special teams and what they're doing. And when you are able to do that as a head coach, you can take complete control of your football team. Not saying that he didn't have that before, but when you're making offensive play calling your main thing as a head coach, it's kind of harder to really focus in on all of the other areas of the game. But Coach Canales is in the position now where he has the utmost confidence in Coach Idzik, and now that's going to allow him to completely lock in all of these other areas. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Bryce Young. Dave Canales has always said a big part of the offensive philosophy is it starts with the run game. And Chuba Hubbard looking for a bounce-back season. He was tremendous 2 years ago. Injuries got to him last year. You know, we talked to him after one of the games. I think it was the Rams regular season game, and Jake Delhomme asked him a really good question on the air about how banged up he was. And Chuba first tried to downplay it, and then Jake pressed him on it. And you know, Chuba opened up, and I'm not sure people realized how hurt he was and how he played through that last season. But if he can be healthy, and then, you know, the big wild card in all this is Jonathan Brooks, who we've been, you know, wanting to see now for a couple of years. It's been really 3 years since he's had any kind of workload. You got to go back to his last year at Texas. What are reasonable expectations for Jonathan Brooks?
Man, I think the sky is the limit for this kid.
That's not reasonable. I said reasonable.
Listen, that's what's reasonable for me with Jonathan Brooks, man. You get to watch him work out throughout the offseason. You get to watch the mindset that this kid has. You see him right now, he just loves football. He loves the game, and he brings a new energy and a new element to this offense. He's big, he's fast, he's physical, and he plays the game the right way at the running back position. He's a guy that you can leave on the field on all 3 downs. And when I say that, a lot of times on 3rd down, the team will take a guy off the field because they're not that good at pass protection. They're not that good at catching the ball out of the backfield. But I think Jonathan Brooks is one of those guys. He can do it all. He was the #1 running back coming out of the draft a couple of years ago, even coming out with an ACL injury. So that says a lot about what we thought about him and what other teams thought about Jonathan Brooks. And now just being able to see him go out and put it all together and hopefully have a healthy, successful season, man. I just think that he has the opportunity to give us that 1-2 punch that we had when we had Rico Dowdle last year as well.
The 1-2 punch has been a staple for the Panthers in their history. On some of their better teams, whether it was Stephen Davis, Deshaun Foster, you played with Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, Rico, and Chuba last year. And one thing that we've noticed, having been out there at training camp, Brooks' ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, that gives your offensive coordinator, your play caller, some options, some creativity. It's a very small sample size. The Panthers only used 21 personnel 19 times last year.
Yeah.
They averaged 6 yards per play. That's 2 running backs, 1 tight end. I go back a couple of years ago, Dave Canales said to me, he said, hey, when Brooks was getting ready to come back, I said, are you guys looking at potential 2 running back, 21 personnel formations? And he said, it's there. We have to first see how Jonathan Brooks does and have to get him acclimated.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that might be a potential wrinkle in this offense where you see both running backs on the field at the same time.
Listen, the goal is to get your best playmakers on the field at all times as much as you possibly can. And if you have Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks, and you want to get them on the field and make defenses have to think or react to what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I think that's going to be a wrinkle that we use, but our offense has gotten so much better across the board, in particular at the wide receiver spot. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were looking to utilize the talent that we had at running back a lot more. Now, I think that we have the opportunity to stay in 11 personnel a lot more and utilize the receivers that we have.
Chuba and Brooks, 1-2 on the depth chart. How does the running back room shake out after that?
Listen, when you look at A.J. Dillon and what he can bring to the table, I think A.J. Dillon has kind of been a guy for so long coming out of Boston College with his stature. If you walk up and you see this dude, man, you was like, how in the heck can anybody tackle this dude? If he goes and really develops the mindset of, I am not going to be tackled, he can literally be a problem in this league, man, because his physical traits says that if he gets the ball downhill full speed, it's going to be a collision. And a lot of times, the person with the best center of gravity is going to win that. And I don't see him losing the center of gravity competition to anybody in the league right now.
This is a guy, if you've seen the TikTok or social media clip, he crushed a watermelon between his thighs.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I hate sitting up here talking about a man's legs like this, but Quadzilla, he earned that name, man. Like, and for him to go out and perform at the level that we need him to, I think he's going to be really good for us on special teams, and he's going to provide a different element in short yardage situations. When you have a bigger back coming downhill. I think that's one of the things that we've missed since Jonathan Stewart, and we're going to get back. And Jonathan Brooks, don't get me wrong, him and Chuba both can perform in those situations. But if you have a bigger body, it just makes it that much harder. But also, we can't forget about Trevor Etienne.
Achane now. It's Achane now, right?
Achane, with Trevor Achane. We're saying the name right. But it's one of those things where if we are able to, spell Chuba and Jonathan with these guys, that's going to keep our guys fresh, man. And I just feel like that just gives us the opportunity to be able to do more and just be more as an offense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many running backs the Panthers take on that 53-man roster. An area that the Panthers reinforced was the offensive line in the offseason. And we know, that unit's been hit by injuries. Ike Ekwonu suffered the torn patellar tendon in the playoff game. He's going to be out. Really still no timetable on his return. Taylor Moton's going to miss probably at least the first month with the blood clot in his lungs. So Monroe Freeling, number 57, first-round pick, 19th overall from your alma mater, Georgia. The original plan was to bring him along. They signed Rasheed Walker, who had started 40-plus games at Green Bay. Hey, you give Freeling a chance to watch. He could play left tackle, right tackle. You've got Walker. You've got Taylor Moton. Well, now with Moton out, Monroe Freeling projects as your day one starter at right tackle.
Listen, sometimes things don't go as planned. Sometimes you get thrust into a situation and you have to react and you have to step up and be prepared for the moment. And Monroe Freeling, drafted in the first round, he's one of those guys that I feel like coming from a Kirby Smart-led football team, he's going to be ready for the moment. He always have those guys ready for the NFL. And when you look at Monroe Freeling, when you look at his ability, his size, his speed, his athleticism, I think that he's a guy that's going to translate to the NFL game very well. Absolutely, would you have loved to let him have the opportunity to learn and grow and watch from some of the older guys? Of course. But now he's been thrust in it. So I think that him having the opportunity to get more reps against our defense constantly, day in and day out, is going to make him so much better as a player in so many areas of his game, in particular in the run game. One of the things that teams said that he needed to work on, and I think that he's going to get better at that, and that's what training camp is about.
Yeah, and again, his versatility, the ability to play both left tackle and right tackle, that's already availing itself to the Carolina Panthers. On the flip side, Monroe Freeling, you go up against some of these edge rushers here in practice, and that's an area that the Panthers addressed in the offseason. They signed Jalen Phillips, but one hand giveth, the other taketh away. Injuries have been a storyline over this first week and a half of training camp. Nick Scorton, who had a very promising rookie season, out for the year, torn ACL, first practice, first day of training camp. This was a guy who had 5 sacks as a rookie, really came on in the second half of the season.
He did.
And TD, he showed himself last year. He's not just an edge rusher, he's a 3-down lineman.
Man, Nick Scorton is a great kid, man. He's a kid that loves the game of football, man, and he always asking questions. He's always in tune to what's going on. And to me, he was one of those young guys that was stepping up and really trying to become a leader at a very young age, man. And that's something that I really love about this kid. You look at the way that he attacks the game of football, and you kind of feel for that kid because you know that he was going to have a big season this year. But at the same time, I've had the opportunity to talk to him about this ACL process, obviously, and encourage him and let him know, man, this is a minor setback. It's not something that's going to define you. I mean, you can't sit around and allow it to beat you down too much. You have 24-hour. It's a 24-hour rule. You mourn. You think about it and you feel sorry for yourself for 24 hours, and then you move past it and you attack the rehab process. And that's what he's doing, man. You can see him out here with his teammates. I encouraged him to stay connected, stay close to the guys, because that's what's going to keep him grounded as he goes through this process.
Yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat that. That was a big blow. They looked at Scorton as a guy who could potentially take a significant step forward here in 2026,
Absolutely.
Maybe even be a double-digit sack guy. But the Panthers did address the pass rush in the offseason, and now Jalen Phillips looms large, got the $120 million contract. He had some of the best pressure rates. The sack numbers, I think, TD, a lot of times we fixate on just the raw sack numbers. His pressure rate with this secondary, which showed that it could be a ball-hawking unit, you got a chance to be disruptive. You force the quarterback into bad throws. You know how that plays out.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody were more excited about the guys that we signed this offseason than our secondary, because they knew if we're able to get more pressure on the quarterback, that's going to force more bad throws. They're going to put them in position to get more interception and make more plays on the defensive side of the ball. So losing Nick Scorton was a big blow, but, we've been in a position where we got Pat Jones. He's going to come back. He's going to be a part of that D-line. So it's one of those things that you lose one, you gain one, you lose one, you gain one, and hopefully we get to the point where we just start gaining players back on this football team and we start to show what we're really capable of as a group, man, because this D-line has been getting after it so far this season.
You see number 91, Pat Jones. Yeah, he had his season cut short by injury last year. He's coming off an injury. He's in the final year of his contract, looking for something to prove. You got Princely Umanmielen, second-year guy. Jalen Phillips has said, in terms of who's got the most talent in that edge rush group, he has pointed to Princely Umanmielen. From adversity comes opportunity, and there's now an opportunity for Pat Jones and Umanmielen, amongst other guys like Travis Gibson and Thomas Incoom as well.
Absolutely, man. It's all about when one guy goes down, that's a perfect opportunity for the next guy to step up and show that he can be the guy to not really replace that guy, but come in, step up, and show what you're capable of. It's all about taking advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself. And we've seen guys step up and do that in a big way for us. And we fully expect all of these guys that you just named to do that. When you think about Princely Umanmielen coming in and having the opportunity to take that next step, that he's one of the guys that I'm really looking forward to see how he progressed from year one to year two, because realistically, coming in, that was a very high expectation for him coming out of Ole Miss. And when you look at it, I feel like Nick Scorton kind of separated himself from Princely. So as a competitor, it should make you feel a certain way, right? If I'm looking at my counterpart start to ascend and get better, that should have made him want to work harder this offseason to come in and prove himself. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he performs this year.
All right, he and Pat Jones will get the first crack at taking over the spot now vacated by Nick Scorton. In the middle of that Panthers defense at inside linebacker, Carolina made another big splash in free agency. They went out and signed Devin Lloyd from Jacksonville. They gave him a 3-year, $45 million contract. TD, inside linebacker, that's the glamour position for this franchise. And when you look at the schedule You know, that position is often in charge of making sure the tight end doesn't get loose in the middle of the field. That was an area where the Panthers struggled, defending the tight end. You look at the way the schedule sets up, you get Colston Loveland week 1 with Chicago coming to town, and you got Harold Fannin from Cleveland, who had a great rookie season week 3, Kyle Pitts week 2 from Atlanta, Sam Laporta, Philly after the bye week. I mean, they're going to play 30 tight ends.
Yeah.
Devin Lloyd's got a chance to make an immediate impact given the way the Panthers have all these great tight ends who they face early in the season.
Listen, I love this signing, man. I love us being able to go out and get the number 1 off-the-ball linebacker on the board. Devin Lloyd, he's a guy that adds instant value to this defense. His ability to cover, have 5 interceptions. Like, I don't think people really understand, how tough of a feat that is because we're so used to seeing Luke do it year in and year out. But to have 5 interceptions at the linebacker position, man, it's a great feat. And 9 interceptions over his career. It just shows me that he understands coverage. He understands zone coverage. He understands man coverage. And he's going to make this defense so much better because that was the area of the team where I feel like we gave up the most yards consistently.
Middle of the field.
Teams were dinking and dunking, and they didn't want to go outside to our cornerbacks. They didn't want to mess with Mike Jack. They didn't want to mess with J.C. Horn, so they took advantage of the soft underneath coverage with our linebackers, and we understood the assignment. We went out and we got a linebacker that could help cover those areas, but not only is he going to help cover those areas, he's going to help make the guys around him better. I look to see Trevin Wallace, I look to see his game go to the next level.
So Devin Lloyd's the green dot. How does that help Trevin Wallace?
It allows him to really focus in on the game. He don't have to worry about, I got to make this play call. And now, as a young guy, we saw we felt like he was going to be capable of doing that, and he struggled in that a little bit. Now he has the opportunity to just really focus in on receiving the call, getting lined up, helping echo the call, because that's going to be his job, right? But at the end of the day, now he gets to just lock in and focus on playing football, and that's something that I feel is going to be very beneficial for him.
Here's one for you, TD. J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson, and Devin Lloyd, all ranked in the top 10 in interceptions in the NFL last year.
Yes, sir, and we all on the same team right now, and I just feel like without a doubt.
Lloyd, by the way, converted safety. Began as a safety when he was at Utah. I know you love that.
Listen, man, I know a little bit about that. So, that really lends to guys being good at coverage. I mean, that's one of the things that helps out in a big way. But his size, his athleticism, and the biggest thing that stands out to me is the way that he approaches the game, the way that he goes out and practice. He practiced exactly the way that we used to practice. It's about making the game easy by making practice so much harder. When you go out and you compete at a high level in practice, you're always flying around, you're always running, you're always getting to the ball. That increased the energy level of the entire defense, and it makes everybody else around you have to do it too. Because if you're doing it every single play and you're running by guys, that's going to make them look bad. So nobody wants to see that on film. So everybody has to increase their tempo. So that's going to make the defense that much better.
And when you look at the depth behind Devin Lloyd and Trevin Wallace, you got Claude Sherrillis, who acquitted himself well when he was given the chance last year with some injuries. He's now a pretty strong depth piece at inside linebacker. You got Bam Martin-Scott, who made the team last year as an undrafted rookie out of South Carolina. And then Jackson Quach is going to be one to watch. He might be a guy we get to see a lot of in this first preseason game. 7th rounder out of Miami, Ohio. Began as a walk-on at Ohio State. Didn't play a single snap in his first 2 seasons, and then was mostly a special teamer at Miami, Ohio, before a breakout senior year.
Listen, he's a guy that I watched a lot of, and I saw some of the things, and I felt like his coverage, he was actually pretty good in coverage, and that's one of the things that stood out to me with him. So I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that's going to come in and contribute on special teams early, but he's going to have a lot of opportunities in the preseason to really showcase his talents and show us what he's capable of. And I think, as you talked about, he's one of those guys that got it out the mud, in essence. He didn't have that silver spoon, that 5-star background, so he had to work for every single thing that he got. And I love those players, man. I love those guys that have to work their way up to become who they become. And he has the opportunity to really do some big things for us. But when you think about Bam Martin Scott, I think that he's a guy, man, that's very interesting to me coming out of South Carolina, having the opportunity to make the club as an undrafted guy like you just talked about, but his ability, his playmaking skills, I think that if he's a guy that can take the next step, he could be a guy that can definitely enter into that rotation with these other three guys and become a contributing factor to this defense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. There's more depth there, and certainly you get Devin Lloyd. Everybody kind of slides down one spot, and that was an area last year where the depth issues did prop up for the Panthers.
Man, it popped up in a big way, in particular late in the season, man, when we had Trevin out, then we had Roseboom out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we were reeling, man. I thought I was going to have to take my shirt and mic off and go put the pads on and join the team for a week or two. But at the end of the day, man, these young guys, they stepped up and they got us through the season, man. And that was one of the things that was promising to see because, you know, we got to see what Bam Martin Scott could do. We got to see what Claudin Shirless could do before he ended up being one of the guys that went down as well, man. So injuries definitely play a toll over the season, but you got to make sure that your roster is capable of withstanding one or two injuries at each position.
What we'll see on Thursday is the first preseason game. Panthers are playing 4 preseason games, so they'll go to Canton to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Luke Kuechly is going to be enshrined, so it's going to be a big event coming up in just a few days. We probably won't see Bryce Young. If we do, it'll be minimal. Dave Canales will probably announce that at some point this week, but expect to see a lot of Kenny Pickett. Expect to see a lot of Haynes King. Will Greer, who was in camp, then basically retired. He's going to go coach. So you got Kenny Pickett, former first rounder. He's kind of bounced around. This is his 5th team, 4th since the start of 2025. Won a Super Bowl with Philly as a backup quarterback. Again, there's pedigree here. This guy, he's a coach's kid. Part of the reason, though, the Panthers traded Andy Dalton to Philadelphia was, hey, Bryce Young's now been in the league. So you don't need that veteran fail-safe anymore as your backup quarterback.
Listen, Kenny Pickett is a guy that has a lot to prove. You know, he came in as a first-round pick out of Pitt, and when he got drafted by Pittsburgh, there were a lot of high expectations. He's played a lot of football so far in his young career, but he hasn't really lived up to the billing, right? So now this is a fresh start for him. This is a new opportunity, and he has to really take advantage of this moment. He has to go out and really showcase what he's capable of doing. I don't think that this is a year that he can go out and not perform at a high level and continue to have a successful NFL career.
He is also responsible for one of the most viral moments in the history of Bank of America Stadium. Go back to the ACC Championship.
Yeah.
Back in 2021. Remember the fake slide?
The fake slide. I knew this was about to say.
That was Kenny Pickett.
That was Kenny Pickett, man.
And then the other guy in the quarterback room right now, interesting, much like Kenny Pickett, also a former ACC Player of the Year, Haynes King, began his career at Texas A&M, transferred to Georgia Tech. This past year at Georgia Tech, he came close to 3,000 passing, almost had 1,000 rushing. Taysom Hill is no longer with the Saints. That's kind of been the name that's been thrown about. Hey, if the Panthers take 3 quarterbacks on the active roster, remember, Carolina was as aggressive as anybody on 4th down last year. 4th and 1, 4th and short. Can Haynes King be a guy who gives the defense something to think about, the way Taysom Hill used to give us fits when he was with the Saints?
Listen, Haynes King gave me fits. He gave me...
Oh, you're thinking about the clean old-fashioned hate game.
Listen, man, the clean old-fashioned hate
overtimes,
game.
The hateful 8.
Listen, man, Haynes King almost gave me a heart attack because I hate losing to Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech had us beat with Haynes King at quarterback. They had the game in hand. We were able to force him into a tough fumble late into the game that gave us an opportunity to force overtime. But, man, he had us on the ropes. And it was one of those things where we struggled with a quarterback that could do both things, a quarterback that could when the play broke down, he can pull the ball down and create extra first downs and extra yard situations for them. And, man, he's a guy, man, that's going to be very interesting in this preseason to see what kind of production he's able to put out. Because if we put him in position to do exactly what you just talked about, right, to be able to execute that Taysom Hill style offense and just go out and just be that do-it-all type player for the Panthers, man, he could be a Swiss Army knife player for us without a doubt, because he's shown time and time again in the ACC that there's no point in the game for Georgia Tech when he was there that the game was really over with Haynes King at quarterback. So that's what I love about this kid, man, his ability to go out and never, ever let his team be out of a football game.
And there were moments over the last few years where, 4th and 1, if the Panthers were thinking QB sneak, we saw them bring Andy Dalton in.
Yeah.
Now you bring in Haynes King, who at this stage of Haynes King's career, spry legs, he can move, gives you, a few more wrinkles than just trying to run it between the A-gap.
Listen, we can start running some of those zone read plays with Haynes King like we used to do with Cam on first down, and give the defense something else to think about, because he's a big, physically imposing looking quarterback, and he's a tough tackle. No guys in the ACC was able to just tackle Haynes King one-on-one in those open field situations and just be comfortable with doing it. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing, how we utilize him throughout this process. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of running him in the Hall of Fame game with, Bryce potentially not playing very much. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to be able to see his full talents be on display. And part of that is seeing him moving out of the pocket, seeing him running around and creating plays with his legs. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that actually looks like in the NFL level.
Historically, starters don't play, or if they do, it's very little in that Hall of Fame game because it's an extra preseason game. So when you're evaluating a Kenny Pickett, a Haynes King, and, you realize that the guys they're going up against, most of them are, either backups, practice squad guys, or guys that, aren't going to make a roster. How do you evaluate a quarterback in that situation?
It's all about the way that they execute. You want to see how they go out, take command of the offense, right? You want to see how they get guys lined up, how efficiently are things running with these guys at quarterback. Then you go, you watch their accuracy. You watch how they get the ball to their playmakers and how they're doing it in a way that it keeps the offense looking efficient. That's what you want to see when you have quarterbacks in these type of situations. The Hall of Fame game, haven't had a ton of practice to prepare for it, and you just want to see how efficient these guys can be and how physical the offensive line is going to be in a game like this. And I think the quarterbacks taking command of the offense, making sure that everybody gets lined up, making sure that they protect the football. That's going to be a big thing in this game, is protecting the football and making sure that we're not turning it over.
Yeah, because like you say, the defense may not have its starters, but you're likely not playing with most of your starters, if any, on the offensive line, at wide receiver, at running back, at tight end. So it's on the quarterback now to elevate the guys around him.
Exactly, and they got to do that in a big way, man. So I know that the play calling is going to be pretty vanilla. You're going to go out. You're not going to really showcase all of the new things that you're implementing offensively. So it should be a pretty fairly quick in and out, situation offensively and defense. You don't want to show a whole lot in the Hall of Fame game. It's about honoring the guys that are being inducted and going in, and we got one of our all-time greats going in. So it's great to see the Panthers finally get the Hall of Fame game, man, because we're getting more guys inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Now, Bryce Young taking a couple of practice snaps as we are with you on Training Camp Live. Anish, Shroff, Thomas Davis. We've got our screen in front of us where we can watch practice. We're watching what you're watching. There's Dave Canales with the offensive group. The O-line, that's a unit where Dan Morgan has really said, hey, we're going to pin the foundation of this offense on the guys in the trenches. And you look at what he did in his first draft class, his first free agent class, really. You go sign Robert Hunt, you sign Damian Lewis, then you fortify it. You bring in Rasheed Walker, you draft Monroe Freeling. You hope, again, Icky's going to be okay. But Lewis, Robert Hunt, if those guys are healthy, you've got twin pillars at guard. Luke Fortner comes in at center. They've got a young developmental guy in Sam Hecht who never gave up a sack at Kansas State, 5th-round pick. I think the one area that you do point to is, okay, you came into this season on paper with a lot of depth on your linemen, on your offensive line. That depth has been tested early.
It has been tested early. It got tested last year as well. I think a lot of guys had an opportunity to play a lot of meaningful football for us, and we got to see a lot of guys grow up. And that's what we're going to have the opportunity to see right now with all of those guys that you named that are out right now. It gives these guys a chance to get more and more reps against a very, very high-quality defensive line that can get after the quarterback. So they're learning a lot. These young guys are getting a lot of real great experience of going against a real great D-line that's going to get after it. So they're going to be prepared as they go into the season, man, having the opportunity to see that kind of talent day in and day out, Anish.
Yeah, a few other guys they brought in. Stone Forsythe came over. He was with the Raiders last year, but he knows this system, was with Seattle 2021 to 2024. So he spent time with Dave Canales. Again, he's a guy right now with all the injuries. He's your swing tackle, but a guy not to forget, Brady Christensen. He was signed recently, was coming off that Achilles injury that he suffered last year. He's been the ultimate Swiss Army knife for this offense. He could play guard, he could play tackle, he could play center. If he's healthy and can get back to close to where he was, again, as a depth piece, TD, a guy who knows the system, who has continuity on this offensive line, that goes a long way.
Hey, it definitely goes a long way, and it's invaluable having a guy that can play multiple positions, because now it gives you an opportunity to focus in on other areas of your football team that you can possibly, like add another guy to a defensive side of the ball if you have one player that can play all three. So you don't have to keep multiple offensive tackles or multiple guards in situations when you have a guy that can do it all. So that's one of the things that I love about having players that are versatile, that can do more things, man. And that's something that I feel like in, having Monroe Freeling being able to play right or left tackle, that adds value to the offensive line. And I just love the way that Dan Morgan and those guys have gone out and improved this roster in ways that we have guys that can come in and be more and do more.
Yeah, and again, this is looking further ahead, but let's say Ike Ekwonu is able to come back, and let's say you're fine at tackle when he comes back. We've heard it throughout Ike's career. Hey, you can move him to guard. He's going to be an all-pro guard if you move him inside. So again, there's positional versatility there as well.
Absolutely. And Ike is one of those guys, man. I think that he can definitely make that transition and make it very well, because you don't usually see guards being able to move that well. But if you get one that can be physical like Ike, like we know he can be physical at times, and he can move the way that Ike can move, that's going to add instant value in creating opportunities, in pulling situations, getting your quarterback out of the pocket and keeping him fresh, keeping him safe. I think that that's something that as Ike continues to get older in his career, he may want to consider just doing on his own.
Yeah. We turn our focus to the wide receivers. You saw Teteroa McMillan. You talk about instant value. First-round pick a year ago, top 10 pick. He goes on to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's got one of the best rookie seasons by any Panther in franchise history, frankly. Jalen Coker. I don't think there's a debate after the wild card game. He is the number 2 wide receiver. He is WR2. He got the contract in the offseason. Well-deserved. Talking to him last week at training camp, big thing is just going into the season healthy. That's been an issue the last 2 years. Yep. He wants to hit the ground running. And then obviously, again, we talk injuries. The big one on the offensive side of the ball, there's been a couple, but Chris Brazzell, third-round pick,
huge blow,
who had been making highlight reel catches in OTAs and training camp. LCL injury, originally believed not to be season-ending. Second opinion, the Panthers said, hey, for your long-term benefit, let's have the surgery, come back next year, come back with a clean bill of health. He's out for the year. Wide receiver 3 now, and the depth chart from there on, that is now a very real competition.
It is a very real competition, and it sucks, man, to lose Chris Brazzell. He was a guy that I was extremely high on, coming out of Tennessee, watching him play against my Bulldogs. He was one of those guys, man, that I just knew was going to be an instant upgrade from a standpoint of stretching the field. We needed a guy that had the speed and the athleticism. Let's hope XL is okay. Came up a little gimpy on that play, but he's one of those guys, man, that I feel like can take the top off of a defense. And he was doing it at a high level. And his ability to track the ball in the air with his size and speed, man, was something special to watch, man. And Panther Nation is going to have to wait a little while to really see him in game situations. But Xavier Legette, man, I feel like he's done a great job this offseason in correcting some of the issues that he had in his ability to catch the ball more consistently with his hands, his ability to keep his weight down. Like if you look at him this offseason, he came in a lot leaner, a lot slimmer. His willingness to go to Miami, work with Chad Johnson, with Ocho Cinco, his ability to make decisions like that shows me that he understands where he is in his career, and he understands that he needs to get better. But, also having the opportunity to get David Moore back. He's a true veteran. He's a guy that has played a ton of football, and we know that he's been in Coach Canales' system for a long time. And he's a guy that Bryce Young has a lot of confidence in.
Yeah.
But, being able to see more of Jimmy Horn, like seeing how he's grown and elevated his game from year one to year two. Having the opportunity to see John Mechie come in. He's a guy that I watched a lot in Alabama. Another guy that gave Georgia fits. He's had a tough go at it. He had an injury coming out of college. Then he ended up having a cancer treatment that he had to go through, and he's bounced back in a big way, and now he's looking to really show people what he's capable of. Bryson Tremaine is another guy that has contributed to this football team, special teams wise, but he's also in clutch moments made big catches for us. So I think that he's a guy that can also take advantage of the moment as well.
When the Panthers used 13 personnel last year, 1 running back, 3 tight ends, the one receiver was often Bryson Tremaine. And he showed his value, as you mentioned, on special teams, also as a very good blocker on the perimeter as a big wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. You love guys that can come in at the wide receiver spot and give you that kind of physicality that when you have running situations, you don't have to worry about guys not doing their part downfield, because that's where the explosive runs get generated and created at, with receivers downfield being willing to do the extra, because most wide receivers usually just want to catch the football and look pretty doing that. But if you got guys that don't mind getting their nose in there and blocking defenders downfield, that's how you see the long runs and the explosive touchdown runs.
86 going out for this pass right here. Jassim Reed is a name to file away. His name has come up in a few press conferences, kind of the Bryson Tremaine of this year's camp, where he's opening some eyes. It's his second year in Panthers camp, played at San Diego for 4 years, final year there, 1,000 yards, 77 catches, 12 touchdowns, 6'2", 200. He's made some really nice catches against the first team. He's opened some eyes. He's a name to watch.
Hey, you got to keep your eye on him. He's a guy that's going to get a lot of opportunity in this Hall of Fame game, and we're going to get a chance to see what he's really capable of. Like you talked about, a big 6 foot plus guy that is 200 pounds. Those are the kind of guys that cornerbacks don't really want to face. They don't really want to go against tall physical receivers. But guys that have something to prove, it makes it even tougher to go out when they trying to give their all to show that they belong, man. So you're going to see every single thing that this kid has to offer, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing. Guys that are down in this roster having the opportunity to improve where they stand in games like the Hall of Fame game and preseason games. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most as we go throughout the preseason.
You got Casey Washington, number 88. He was signed just recently in camp, former Falcon 6th-round pick a couple of years ago. So the Brazel injury, Panthers looking for more depth in that room. Jimmy Horn's an interesting one, right? I think the feeling going into last year was Horn could be a guy who could help on special teams. We didn't really get a chance to see that. He had that muff punt in the preseason game last year. If he can add that special teams piece to his arsenal with his top-end speed and separation, again, you're a 6th-round guy in year 2. You're fighting for a roster spot. Jimmy Horn knows that. But how can you add value? I'm curious to see if Jimmy Horn gets some run on special teams here in preseason.
Listen, I would love to see Jimmy Horn have the opportunity to return some punts and return some kickoffs, because his short area quickness and his ability to get in. Look at him. Just look at the movement patterns and the way that he's able to get in and out of breaks. When you see guys that are fast and quick, I think that usually bodes well for a guy as a returner. Back in the day, we used to have to go against a guy by the name of Devin Hester, who became a Hall of Famer at the return specialist, as a return specialist. Jimmy Horn, I feel like, has that Devin Hester movement pattern. He has the ability to be that kind of player. So one of the things that it says to me is that he has to really, that's the only thing that I can think of on why a coach would not be confident enough to put you back there, right? So that would have been something that, as Jimmy Horn goes through the offseason, that I would have put a lot of time investing into making sure that I can consistently do that and do it at a high level, even in creating pressure situations. Have someone like run at me while I'm trying to field it, so I can get accustomed to being used to that happening in front of me, because that's when you see a lot of guys lose focus, right? When you're fielding punts, you can do it all day on air and not ever drop one. But when guys start to really get nervous when you have to field one and you hear footsteps right in front of you, that makes you a little nervous. So I want to see Jimmy Horn have that opportunity and really go out and seize that moment, because I feel like that's a different element that we can add to this football team that we didn't really get to see a lot from our returners last year.
No, and David Moore, him coming back, remember he had that dislocated elbow week 4 against New England. Moore is a guy where you can put him back on punts, and he may not be an explosive returner like Jimmy Horn, but you know he's going to field the punt clean.
You know he's going to field the punt clean, but I want somebody that's going to go out there and be a difference maker. And I feel like Jimmy Horn can be that guy in this, like we talked about. If we can get him back there and get him in a position where he consistently, and one thing that he's shown throughout his time at Colorado, throughout his time so far in the NFL, if he feels that punt, he's going to try to run it. It doesn't matter where it is. Like, he's not one of those guys that do a lot of fair catching. He wants to catch that ball, and he wants to gain yardage. He wants to showcase his ability, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing. And hopefully he gets those opportunities early within this Hall of Fame game and throughout the course of preseason to showcase those abilities.
And, you know, we're watching David Moore here, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk Tetairoa McMillan. What does he do for an encore? 1,000 yards. He was the #1 receiver as a rookie, basically at the top of the scouting report from the receiving group, essentially since week 1. And he got better and better. There's a smoothness, there's a fluidity to his game on third downs, on big spots. That was the guy that Bryce Young looked to. You know, the play that jumps out, the 4th down play against the Rams in the regular season, where there was a little bit of improv by both the receiver and the quarterback. And when you see that TD, you're just going, okay, these guys have a chemistry and a trust. They're on the same page. What's an encore season look like for T-Mac?
You know, I think encore season looks like improving on all of the numbers from your rookie year. To me, that's one of the things that he has to be focused in on. How can I get better, and how can I be more consistent? That's one of the things that when you have the opportunity to be around T-Mac, you have the opportunity to talk to him. He's always looking for ways to get better. He's one of those guys that he's extremely humble. If you look at him, I feel like he felt that he could dominate more and be more physical with more weight. So he's added some weight.
20 pounds.
Listen, you look at this guy, man, he's physically imposing now. It's going to be a lot harder for DBs to tackle T-Mac because he put a lot of weight on from a physical standpoint and looks a lot stronger right now.
And we have heard that we're going to see him used in the slot a little more as well. You see a guy like T-Mac with his size, his build, now more muscular, all right, as a linebacker or as a safety, what does that do to the defense when he lines up in a slot and not a guy who's 5'9", 190?
You know, you got to really focus in on what's about to happen right now, because we got to see that a few years ago with the Arizona Cardinals, because they started moving Larry Fitzgerald into the slot. Bigger body receiver, physical. He was their #1 receiver all the way late into his career. But one of the things you had to focus in on, that was another way of a team not only creating 11 personnel, but almost making it like 12 personnel when you look at Great
Corey
job.
Thornton. Yeah.
Great job by the defender against T-Mac. But when you have a guy like that, it's almost like you're creating an extended version of 12 personnel. 12 personnel being one running back, a 2 tight end set. But it's really 11 personnel, but you have a big physical guy on the opposite side lined up on a smaller nickel back that can actually block. And you see a lot of teams do that when you have a physically imposing receiver that can also dominate in the blocking game. So that's one of the things that we'll be able to take advantage of with T-Mac out of the slot, because a lot of times the nickel back is usually smaller on teams. Jimmy Horn, quick twitch movement, and toasted our DB.
That was Shaw Smith-Wade, who was the starting nickel most of last year. So we're going to watch some of these one-on-ones now, wide receivers and DBs, but that double move there by Jimmy Horn was sweet.
It's tough to defend, man. People don't understand how difficult one-on-one situations are. It's so unrealistic for a defender in those situations. It's built for the offense to be successful. And anytime that we can get stops defensively, that's a win by the defense right there, out of bounds. Great job, defense.
Yeah, that was Tyreek Funderburk in coverage against Jasim Reed. Now Jonathan Mechie, John Mechie, played with Bryce at Alabama.
Yep.
That was against the safety, Trayvon Merrick. He got great separation.
Trayvon got to be better than that, man. Listen, one of the things as a defender, you have to understand leverage. Right then, Trayvon started out at inside leverage. He allowed Mechie to get him off balance and recreate that leverage mismatch for him because he allowed him to get inside. That's something that you can never do as a defender. You got to play to your strengths and play to your help.
Casey Washington with a nice adjustment. Defended there by DeCarlos Nicholson, undrafted rookie. Here's Coker.
See, that was the situation right there, though, that the defender understood his leverage. He played that from an outside leverage standpoint, and he stayed outside leverage the entire way. He tried to run a whip route where he went and whipped back out, and he ran right back into the defender's leverage. That's one of the things that we have to take advantage of. Mike Jack.
And Xavier Leggett.
Ooh.
Leggett got a step. Jackson got the hand in there. It's funny, Mike Jackson, that trade by Dan Morgan is going to go down as one of the great heists in the history of the Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely.
They got him for a 7th-round pick a couple of years ago.
See, but great movement pattern by T-Mac right there to set the defender up. Corey Thornton got to do a better job playing to leverage. We just talked about it, right? If you're inside leverage, don't bite on that inside move. You got to be able to come away with that.
Out route there to Jimmy Horn.
He looks so explosive and so fast, man. I really want to see this kid get that opportunity because his speed, his athleticism, he adds a different different element to the game.
That was the rookie out of Texas A&M, Will Lee.
Yeah, the blanket had him
24,
blanketed.
The blanket.
Great route.
David Moore. Yeah, it's the more you watch David Moore, again, there's nothing flashy about his game, but he makes all the routine plays. You can see why this coaching staff loves him, why they trust him.
He's a pro. He's a true pro.
Mechie against Shaw Smith-Wade again.
Oh, great job of staying on top of the receiver. That's one of those things, right? You got to be prepared for double moves. Sometimes giving up a 5-yard route in zone coverage, it allows you to understand that, hey, we're playing these soft coverages to give those routes up where we don't give up the big plays. And people don't understand that when you're in a man-to-man situation, if you're playing off, you're saying that, hey, I'm comfortable with giving that up. But at the end of the day, you got to be in position to go up and make the tackle and get off the field and limit the production.
He's Thomas Davis. I'm Anish Shroff. It has been great hanging out with you guys. Panthers training camp live. Do we get one more rep here?
I need to
Jalen
see
Coker, Trayvon Merrick.
Trayvon redeem himself from that last rep.
Let's see if Merrick can get a little redemption.
Let's do it, baby. Let's go, defense. See, he did it again. He did it again. He opened up and allowed Coker to regain that inside leverage. There's both reps. Trayvon Merrick did the same thing. Once a receiver starts to stem, you have to weave and start to stem to work inside to keep that inside leverage. He allowed Coker to get even with him, set him up, and steal that inside leverage from him. So that's how he lost that rep off top.
That's Casey Washington, the former 6th round pick.
We've seen it time and time again. They're giving up their leverage to these receivers, man. You're never going to win in one-on-ones like that.
And the horn fittingly sounds. We've got a Luke Kuechly's going to go into the Hall of Fame. The Panthers are playing in the Hall of Fame game in Canton. They'll play the Cardinals. Arizona has Larry Fitzgerald, who you just mentioned, going in part of the Hall of Fame class with Drew Brees, Roger Craig, Adam Vinatieri, amongst others. You played side by side with Luke Kuechly.
My brother, man.
I know there's so many stories that come to mind, but if there's one moment that encapsulates who he was as a football player, what is that for you?
His selflessness, man, his ability to go out and do whatever was needed for the team. That's who Luke Kuechly is. He's never been, this moment right here is going to be so uncomfortable for him because it's all about him in this moment. And if you had a chance to be around Luke, you know that this is probably going to be the most uncomfortable that he's been in his entire life. Being on a stage where the whole moment and the whole thing is completely about him. But I know that he's going to deliver in a big way because he's always prepared for the moment. He's always ready. And it's one of the things that I love about him, man, because I can assure you that his speech is probably going to be spent talking about all the guys that helped him get to that point. From a coaching standpoint, his parents, the guys around him, that's who Luke Kuechly is. I mean, you guys are going to have an opportunity to see us on TD's Film Room breakdown stuff later in the week, and you're going to see Luke Kuechly, and you're going to get to see just what I'm talking about. You're going to see him share some of the things that were important to him, that made him who he was, and what he really thinks about the game of football and how everything played out for him. So that's one of the things that, I love about my brother, man. He's always selfless.
I'll share this story. So a couple of years ago, after the season, we go out to lunch, and I asked Luke, I said, hey, I want to watch film with you. I want to just try to see how you see it. If I can learn a couple of things, great. And so we pop up a game, we're watching the All-22, and it feels like I'm sitting next to a poker player who's picking up on the smallest tells.
Yep.
And you've heard the story plenty, but just to see it up close, the way he watches, the details that he fixates on. And so I start seeing it, I'm taking notes. And then, as somebody who works college football and with a lot of other former football players, I kind of go back to them. I said, hey, watching film with Luke, and these were some of the things that he was picking up on. Is this normal? And every single one of them goes, yeah, no.
Exactly.
Like, he's picking up on that. Like the way, the little twitch a guy makes, the little thing. And that was what made Luke, it's what's made him great in the booth. He's going to be doing Netflix. NFL in Australia coming up a little bit.
It's going to be awesome, man.
The attention to detail, his ability to see the little things, pick up on it right away, and you guys saw that firsthand.
Listen, he would be able to come, look at an offensive lineman, walk up to the line. On a particular play, they may put their foot slightly above another foot, or even their feet out, and it would indicate that they were running the ball on that particular play. And he would know, based on their stance, that it was going to be a run every single time, versus when they were in a pass set, like he was like if you move your feet slightly, he would be able to pick up on that. He watched so much film. He pays so much attention to detail. And that's one of the things, man, that ultimately made him great. But one of the things that I think people don't really focus in on enough is how fast, how physical, and how competitive Luke Kuechly really is. Because I think so many people get fixated on that part of the game, right? They look at the fact that he was able to dissect and understand what offenses were doing at all times, but they don't realize, even though you understand that stuff, you still have to be able to get there. You still have to be able to execute once you're there. And that was one of the things that separated him from anybody else that I've ever played with. And that's exactly why he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm still standing on that.
Luke Kuechly is a Hall of Famer, and it means a lot, certainly to Luke. It means a lot for those who've been around him, for those who've rooted for him, and it means a lot to the Carolina Panthers. And again, this is a young franchise still, right? We're still in our early 30s as a franchise, and to see Luke Kuechly and Julius Peppers go in, Sam Mills was finally inducted a few years before that. Steve Smith is going to have his turn one day.
Absolutely.
Steve Smith is going to be in your seat the next time we do this show.
My guy.
Steve Smith Sr., that's always going to be entertaining. We will talk a lot about the receivers. I'm sure Steve will have
He's going to have a lot to say. I can guarantee you that.
A lot of opinions when we do the one-on-ones. That'll be on the next edition of Training Camp Live, which will be a week from today. So we'll also have a Hall of Fame game to react to. For Thomas Davis and Anish Shroff, thank you for being with us, and keep pounding.